Hello folks and welcome to OurGame with myself, Shane Stapes, and as always joined by Michael Verney. Do you know, did you see that woman on BBC last week, Michael, when she was doing the countdown and then she turned it to the...
That could easily happen with us. I thought of it straight away. I said that could very, very easily happen with us someday.
We could do far worse too. It's in us. You know, you're dealing with a fair selection here.
Very, very true. Ashley was mad. I didn't see that much of an outcry about it. Hopefully she didn't lose her job or anything like that, but in the world we live in, she may have.
Which just tells you, come on, people, chill out a small bit. By the way, if you want to get this audio podcast later on, go to patreon.com/OurGame, loads of stuff there. We're going to have Jason Ford live on the show soon enough, so really looking forward to getting a chat with him. Barry Fitzpatrick is taking us straight into the club stuff because it was unbelievable weekend. Delight for the Borough Birds, so Dicksboro won the All-Ireland Camogie Club Championship. MEAB12 says, well, I was very wrong about Thomas's in my comment here a few days ago. Delighted for them. So should we start off straight away with the drama of the club weekend? I mean, St. Thomas is needing penalties against Ballygunner and then Cushendall against Lough Gales, separated by just a point. And you know, actually in the final, I think it was give or take 15 minutes if you include injury time. The teams between them created 20 chances, converted 4. That just tells you the tension in those final moments. And it took an unbelievable score from David Fogarty from the sideline to separate the teams at the end. It was complete drama. I was there and it was class.
Has there ever been a better weekend, you know, of club action? Like, fair enough for the teams involved and the supporters involved. Saturday night fixture, probably not hectic. Probably didn't get home till all hours. For the likes of ourselves, like sitting at home, imagine like watching hurling at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Like, it's absolutely manna from heaven. And it was like, there was so much drama in that game. It was crazy. There was no way that yesterday could match it for drama, and then all of a sudden it did match it for drama. It was very like the 2018 All-Ireland
semi-final. You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
Wasn't it like there's no way that the Saturday could have been topped on the Sunday, and then Cork and Limerick played out this absolute thriller, went to extra time. Across the weekend, it kind of had everything. It was funny. There were different types of games. Like yesterday was more like chaos, I would have said. Like a chaos everywhere. Mad things happening throughout the game. Saturday, So I think someone left you a comment there and tagged me in it about me writing Thomas's off. I don't think I wrote them off or said they were going to get a hammering, but very, very few could see that coming. Like it was nearly as perfect a performance as they could have pulled together. It was absolutely amazing stuff, really. Just how there were so many things, like there were little tricks that they did. They were in their faces. It was down and dirty. Like David Burke would say maybe had a maybe quiet first 15 or 20 minutes. I thought like he was enforcing from minute 1 to the end. Like he pulled across Paddy Levy at the very start. Do you remember that? Just laying down a bit of a marker. I think it was him that pegged Pádraig Matney's hurl away. I think that was the green helmet that I copped. It was just like little things. They were willing to do whatever it took to win. And they kind of had to be like that. It had to be that good to kind of take down Ballygunner, and they spoiled them in a lot of areas, really frustrated them, didn't allow Philip Mahoney to dominate. Like that was just from minute 1, like it finished in a blaze of glory in normal time. Then Billy O'Keefe puts over a point in extra time. Oh my God. I was like, what are you doing shooting from here? You're under pressure. I know the breeze is at your back. Like for a sub to come in and do that. And then obviously the drama, the penalties as well. Saturday night had it all, and then yesterday backed it up as well.
And like Billy O'Keefe, though, he was on the club team of the year a couple of years ago. So I'd say he wanted to go out and say, look, I should be on this team too. The penalties were serious drama. And we're going to talk about penalties again. It feels like we're talking. Do you know what? Penalties in GEA is like VAR to soccer. Every single week, its existence is being disputed and debated. So do you know what? We can't help but talk about it again. But maybe we'll go into that with a little bit more depth later on. Also, another talking point that we wanted to look at. Shane Brophy of the Nina Guardian, who I regularly do Tipcast with, he was saying, should we not be looking at, for club final days now, 3 hurling matches on one day, 3 football matches on another day? Now, they could be back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, or 1 week after the next. And I was thinking about it, if you're a neutral, let's say you're a neutral hurling supporter or a neutral football supporter, maybe you'd be more inclined to go if you had 3 games of the code that you're interested in rather than splitting it up. Because we've seen codes where half the stadium or half the attendance, I should say, empties out. But we'll come back to that in a little while. Penalties we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the possibility of a blue flu in Dublin refereeing circles, because there's a lot of talk about the welfare issues there. They look like they're putting together a bit of a referees association. We've seen so many high-profile incidents of abuse, referees getting hit, the whole lot across the country. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But just back to the game yesterday, O'Loughlin Gales against Cushendall. And if Jason comes on, we might ask him about it as well. But the amount of chances that O'Loughlin Gales created for goal-scoring opportunities, there was 5 alone in the first half, and they got another couple in the second half as well. Like, considering the start they'd had going 1-6 to 2 points down, 1-4 to nothing down. I mean, I thought it was an incredibly gutsy performance to pull it out of the bag when everything went wrong early on.
Yeah, there was serious resolve shown, wasn't there, really? Like, because a hell of a lot of things went against him in a big game. And you're kind of thinking, particularly playing against that breeze, you're kind of thinking this game could get away from them very quickly. But they just chipped in a couple of scores. I thought Luke Hogan was a fantastic outlet. Like, he was a fantastic outlet throughout. But particularly in that first half, he's just a real handful, real dangerous. He actually reminds me something shocking of Brian Digan from Offaly. Same type of style, same colour helmet, same kind of striking action as well.
Do you know Nisha Waldron was telling me that he had been a wing back, and that they were looking for a position for him. And of course, Paddy Butler had taken the smack in the head in the Leinster final. So it wasn't necessarily always the plan that he plays a full forward, but I agree with you. He was brilliant.
Conor Heary was wing back in the county final 2 years ago. And now, like, to me, he's one of the best attackers in Kilkenny at the minute. Like, he's an absolute shoe-in to start for Kilkenny, because he has all the physicality. Yeah, start for Kilkenny, yes. At the minute, yeah, Jesus, definitely, yeah. Because imagine how much he could complement the likes of Adrian Mullen, TJ. He could, like, if you had Conor Heary beside TJ, imagine the amount of work potentially he could do for him. Do you know what I mean? The amount of ground he could cover for him. Throw on Cody, Adrian Mullen, like, he's a workhorse, but he's a very, very skilled workhorse, and he always gives the ball to the person in the right position, and he's well able to take a score as well. I thought at stages yesterday he was outstanding. There were stages of that game yesterday as well where I was looking at Hugh Lawler and just thinking, this lad is the safest pair of hands I've seen around the edge of the square in a long time. Like, if your life depended on it and a ball went in one-on-one between the full forward and the full back, you'd have Hugh Lawler in that position every day of the week. He's just a big kind of, and I mean this in the best way possible, he's a big gangly octopus, and he just comes out with, he just has eyes for the ball only and just wants to walk out with that ball. I thought he was so safe when they're under pressure at different stages yesterday. And as well, like David Fogarty, exact same as the Kilkenny County final, a pint under the stand, and same as the Kilkenny County final as well. He had one to hit off the post, I think, that day. The keeper pulled down a brilliant one to keep them in it and give Cushendall a chance to get a leveler. And, like, you would feel sorry for Neil McManus in particular, who put over a crazy point into the teeth of a big gale, then probably had an easier chance, probably had another second to steady himself, and he kind of said it after. But, like, I'd say if you're looking for a better ambassador for the GA or for hurling, you won't find it. Like, he comes out and stands out then and does an interview after with his kid in his hand, and just real kind of raw and emotional. Like, yeah, it was a brilliant weekend. To me, it summed up everything that's brilliant about the GA, but everything that's brilliant about Club GA as well.
And a comment here from Harbourne 6. 4 teams of Warriors went out the weekend. No club match should be in Croke Park until All-Ireland finals. Thai provincial venues helped make it. A lovely level of filth went through the whole weekend.
The ultimate compliment.
Delighted to say we're joined now by Jason Ford of Tipperary. He's at the launch of the Co-op Munster Hurling League. Jason, delighted to chat to you. How are things with you?
Yeah, good, lads. Good. Thanks for having me on.
We were just talking about the weekend, the Club GA. Did you get to watch either of the games, and what were your thoughts on them?
I actually didn't. I seen a small bit of the Ballygunner game, and I think it's probably one of the best games of club hurling I probably missed out on. I watched back the penalty shootout, all right, but yeah, 2 serious teams going at it now.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind an old penalty yourself in a shootout, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know the conditions and everything. Like, yeah, Thomas's penalties were top class. Like, but it's tough. It's tough for a game to be decided on that, especially at this time of the year as well.
What do you make of it, Jason? We've talked over and back about whatever, about games finishing on the day or whatever. For a player, like, what would you feel if you were beaten in an All-Ireland Club semi-final by penalties, losing a game, been out of championship, but not really losing the game? Like, what is it fair? Is it unfair?
Yeah, like you can practice penalties and do all that kind of stuff, but it still comes down to a bit of luck, like. So, you know, a replay is probably the fairest way to go about it. And as a player, I think everyone probably would just want another crack at it. You know, after playing whatever 60 odd minutes and then extra time on top of it and the whole lot, the replay probably is the fairest way to go about it. But yeah, look, that's the way it is. That's what's brought in. Both sets of teams kind of know that, so you just kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah, and like it's really got the conversation going again, Jason. Like, but people are saying there's only 52 weeks in a year, and if we bring in penalties for like an All-Ireland semi-final plus finals, and then like is it inter-county going to be like replays? So we probably just don't have enough weeks in the year to do it. So they're probably there to stay. Or you know, some people say in extra time, maybe if a team goes 2 or 3 points ahead, like pick a marker that would decide it. Or another thing I heard is like in ice hockey. You know the way you get the ball around midfield, you run in on the keeper and you try to score. Maybe something like get the ball and once you enter the D. I'm not saying I necessarily am backing all of these things, but like of all of the options available, is there something better than penalties, or is penalties the best of a bad sort of selection?
Yeah, it's probably the best of a bad selection, really. Like, you know, if you're bringing in something like that, it's nearly kind of, I don't know, it's like a novelty or something like that. At least with penalties, kind of you can practice them, you know, they're kind of in the game itself. So yeah, look, it's probably, as you say, it's probably down to the fixtures thing, really, isn't it? Like that they just don't have enough time in the calendar year and they have to try and get games finished on the day. But you know, to see them two teams go at it again would have been great. Like, but as you said, that's just the way it is.
Do you you know, when you're taking a penalty, you've done it for the club and the county plenty of times. Do you ever get nerves? Same with freeze, or is it something whereby you just get into a zone and puck away?
Yeah, I suppose you kind of just have your routine, and you just try and focus on that. You know, it's cliche to say. I think every free taker says that you focus on your routine, but you genuinely do, like, because if you're getting distracted with, you know, what stage of the game it's at or what the score is or the crowd or anything like that, like it's only going to take away from you actually hitting the penalty or the freeze. So I just think go back to your routine and then look, if it goes in, it goes in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But once you're focused on that, you're giving yourself the best chance of actually scoring it.
Without giving away the secrets of the kingdom, Jason, do you pay much attention to the keeper in the penalty? Like you saw even Ger Kelly the other night from Thomas's he was switching from left hand to right hand to try and put the taker off to make him go to a side that he wanted to put it to. Like, does the keeper come into it much, or are you more just focused on I'm going to put this ball where I want to put it, and whatever he does is kind of separate thing completely?
Yeah, I think whatever he does is kind of separate because, like you're saying, I've seen a couple of keepers do that as well, where they would have been, let's say, on their left side, and then they're switching over hands, trying to give you a different look and stuff like that, or stepping towards one side of the goal or whatever. So I suppose they're going to try every tactic they can to maybe put you off a little bit. So I think you kind of have to have it in your head, look, this is where I'm going, and that's it. No matter what he's doing, this is where I'm putting it.
And like these weekends now, or these weeks, I suppose, when you're not back in the limelight in terms of hurling. I know you're obviously back training with Tipperary. The last couple of months, do you put down the hurley for a while, you know, once the club action is over, or are you still poking away in the background all the time?
Yeah, no, I'd leave down the hurley completely. Just go away from it completely, because I just think you need to kind of reset and recharge, and you come back then with a bit of freshness and a bit of hunger for it again. So no, I definitely one that would just, once the club thing was over, leave down the hurley and just kind of go away from it completely. I wouldn't even really go to many matches or watch much of it, if I'm being honest. Just try and take a complete break, because it's a full on, like when you're in with an inter-county setup, it is full on for the length of time that you're there, and obviously then you're back to the club, you're playing every second week as well, and you're focused there too. So I think when you get a chance to take a break, you take it in full.
And would you, like, do you still have the same love of the game as you had, you know, growing up, or when you first came onto the scene with the Tip seniors?
I definitely, yeah. I think you'd have to. You know, the way the inter-county game has gone and the amount of hours that lads are putting in a week between, you know, gym sessions and on the field itself, and then bits that you're doing away from it, I think you'd have to love it. If you didn't, I don't know how you would put in that time into it. So no, I think the love of the game and the enjoyment from it has to be kind of first and foremost. What
about this time of the year? Do you love that?
Yeah, this time of the year is just for getting the head down and slogging through it. But I know, look, it goes by fairly quick too, because, you know, once the league starts and stuff like that, you're preparing for games every week. So you have a couple of weeks of hardship, and then you're kind of into the games, and it kind of flows from there then. So no, this time of year is definitely just get the head down and motor through it.
You kind of just have to do it, don't you? Like it's a matter, like if you want to have a good summer, you probably have to have a good winter, don't you? It's just something that's taken as a given with GA people. Like you just have to go through that kind of slog to get where you want to be come summertime.
Definitely, yeah. Like it's the same even with professional sports. Like, you know, they all have to go through pre-seasons and, you know, get your body up to the level of condition that needs to be in order to play the games in the summer. So no, it has to be done, and you know, if you didn't do that, you probably wouldn't be as, you know, prepared and probably not feel as confident going into the games then, because you have to have that bank of work behind you.
Like the Munster Hurling League is going to start pretty soon, the Co-op Superstores Munster Hurling League. Now that the 2023 has been done, and I'm sure you're kind of done with it yourselves within the group, like how do you reflect on it? You know, obviously getting out of Munster was good, but there was those couple of games at the end in between either side of the Offaly game where it just didn't feel like we saw the best version of Tipperary.
Yeah, very much so. Kind of a mixed season. You know, a lot of positives to take out of it, as you said, coming out of Munster. You know, with the level of competition that is down there, was a massive thing. And a massive thing for the group as well, because you had a lot of lads maybe getting their first kind of championship starts and playing in kind of their first championship campaign. So getting out of that was massive. But you'd be very disappointed with both the Waterford game and obviously the Galway game as well. That we probably didn't reach the levels that we kind of expect of ourselves. And you know, if we had to reach those levels and kind of get the performance that we would have wanted, and you're still bet, you can kind of, you know, you can say fair enough, but it was just kind of, I suppose, the manner of it was the most disappointing.
Yeah, Michael.
How difficult is that, Jason? Like the week before the Waterford game, like you went toe to toe with Limerick in an absolute epic of a game. How difficult is it as a player? Not even saying like physically, like, but even emotionally and mentally, is it to get back up for a game and say a week later, like it's fairly full on now. You'd want to be in the full of your health, but mentally and physically, like to be able to perform week on week on week.
Yeah, definitely. Like every game you're playing in Munster is massive. Like, and even seeing the way the results went, you know, like we obviously bet Clare the first day, and then Clare went on and bet Limerick, and then we drew with Limerick. So like there was absolutely nothing in most of the games. So you really do need to be very well tuned in, like, and make sure you're getting the recovery in, and that, you know, the focus switches fairly quick from the game you've just played to the game that's coming up. So no, it is difficult, but you know, every team has to do it in Munster. So yeah.
Is work tricky around that time, Jason? Like with the 5 or 6 weeks the Munster Championship is going on. I remember chatting to various lads in management, like, and it's very time demanding, like, shall we say, like, even, and you kind of need to get somewhere the Monday after a game, don't you, to get recovery first thing almost, to be in good shape for the Tuesday session or that. Is it a difficult balancing act with work and things?
I suppose I can only kind of speak for myself. And I was obviously teaching.
Grand,
career break.
you're grand and handy. Get to sleep in the afternoon.
Exactly. Once 4 o'clock comes, that's it, home to the couch. But no, I'd actually taken a career break in 2022, so I was probably one of the luckier ones I'd be able to kind of manage. Do you know what I mean? I'd have a bit more maybe free time to actually go and get recovery the next day and stuff like that. So yeah, around that Munster Championship, you do kind of need to be, like, recovery is massive. I know I probably fell ill to that last year as well. Like the hamstring went against Cork. I ended up missing two or three games. So, you know, the games are so tightly packed together that if you do pick up a knock, you're going to struggle to be right. You could miss 2, 3, 4 games. Like.
And are you changing career from teaching, or was it just a year out to recharge the batteries or be a full-time hurler?
No, it was, I actually, the club put in a gym there maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I'd actually done a course through Setanta on it. So kind of got into that side of things. So the personal training and run a few classes and stuff out there. So yeah, the career break was just kind of try get that off the ground. And you know, the schooler, in fairness, the schooler facilitated me with that. So I'm in the second year of that career break now. Kind of focusing on the personal training and the classes and things like that.
Very good. And you know, I was chatting to John Madden, who used to be one of the selectors with Michael Ryan maybe 5 years ago, and he was saying about, I think it was about heading into the 2018 season, where they had a chat with you about, you know, you've been on the panel a few years now. It's about, you know, they wanted to put you in full forward, put you in a sort of a leadership role. I suppose maybe something that had been done with Seamus Callanan before. Do you remember that conversation, having a chat with Michael Ryan and John Madden and so on, and kind of kicking on from there?
I do, yeah. Like, I suppose you meet the management every kind of winter before you go back. And as you say, they kind of put that across to me. And then I think Callan was injured the same league campaign, so they did kind of throw us in from the start and kind of got a run of games behind me and confidence kind of built, and then they kept us there for the championship. I think the same year player bet us in the last game to knock us out, but things just kind of developed from there then, and obviously Sheedy was in the following year and same thing again, got another run of games, and I was kind of just away then.
And was it like frustrating for you for a while to try and nail down your place, because you were probably in and out of the starting team for a long time, came on in 2016 All-Ireland, got a few scores and all that stuff, but it probably then was huge for you to have that starting position nailed down by the time of the All-Ireland in 2019.
Yeah, no, it was frustrating. Obviously, you want to be playing. Every player wants to be playing, but if you look at it logically, like trying to break into that tip forward line at that time was no easy feat. Like, you had nearly 5-6 lads with all-stars in their back pockets that you're trying to get in there ahead of. So competition for places was massive as well. So it really was just about when they did get the chance to actually get that bit of consistency, I think was the big thing.
Yeah. Who's the player you most enjoy watching these days, Jason?
From another county, is it?
Oh, from Tip or beyond?
Actually, there's loads. Like, I suppose like Conor Whelan from Galway, I thought he was really, really good this year. Obviously Galan, like, I suppose you kind of be looking at lads who play kind of in a similar position to you, and kind of looking at kind of what they do and is that you can kind of bring from what they do into your game. But like, they'd be two of the top ones. And anytime they're playing, they're good to watch.
Who's the best player of wrists on the Tipperary panel? Outside of yourself, we'll put you up high on the list.
Actually, probably Noel McGrath, I'd say.
Yeah.
In terms of wrist and his striking, it's next level. So you'd probably say him.
You might be unaware of it, Jason, but we built a complete hurler the other day, there a couple of weeks ago. And what part was he, Shane? Was it the wrist?
I think we gave you ball striking, was it?
Ball striking, yeah. Ball striking off left and right.
I'll take that. It wasn't going to be for speed anyway, I can tell you.
Did ball striking come naturally to you?
Did it come naturally? I suppose it would have been something I probably worked on a lot, like, unknown to yourself when I was younger, let's say off the Gable end at home and stuff like that. And as well as that, like, we would have been, our club would have had small numbers, let's say underage and stuff like that. So I would have played nearly every position, I'd say, from goalie all the way up to corner forward. So I think that kind of helped as well. You see some players in bigger clubs and they kind of start out as a corner forward and that's it, they're corner forward from the time they're 6 years of age till they play, senior or whatever. But getting to play in all those different positions, I think kind of just helped to bring on the overall game and striking and stuff like that.
Is there any advice you'd give to, like, if you go back to your 18-year-old self, is there any advice you'd give 18-year-old Jason or any other younger player who's trying to come through and make an impact on the senior scene?
I suppose just the patience element of it. Like, it's even from when I started to now, like, it's probably is taking lads, 2-3 years kind of to get up to the strength and condition that's needed for intercounty hurling. Like, so you don't see too many 19 or 20-year-olds kind of coming in now and starting straight away unless they're exceptional altogether. So I think the patience, just have a bit of patience and really kind of buy into the strength and condition and everything that's going on within an intercounty setup.
Who would have been your heroes growing up, or the people you would have modelled your game on?
So I suppose when I was coming up, like, Owen Kelly would have been the main man with Tip. So he would have obviously been one you would have looked at. And he was putting up huge scores for Tip at the time as well. So probably him, and then a couple others like Larry Corbett and all those lads were playing that time as well. So they would have been kind of the ones I would have been watching coming up along.
And Mad, you got to play with both of those lads that you mentioned then.
Yeah, exactly. And then Owen being involved with us then under Liam Sheedy as well. So I learned a lot of him throughout that time as well. He was very, very good to us, in fairness. We'd kind of go off before games to whatever field we'd be playing in and just kind of hit freeze for maybe an hour and a half or whatever. So he was great to bounce ideas off as well.
Did you hurt your finger at the nail salon? I was going to say.
What's that?
Yes, did you hurt your finger at the nail salon?
Oh, the finger, yeah. That's been going on for a few years now. So I got a bit of time to get it done there. So I think it's get a small little hopping it there a couple of weeks back. So yeah, all sorted.
Is it that sort of mallet finger that a lot of us pick up at some stage? You can barely even bend the tip of it.
Yeah, it was bending in even the other way. The ball kind of hit it originally, and then obviously let it go, and it just got worse and worse. So yeah, we had a bit of time now in the off season to get it done. I said, get it done out of the way.
And
no excuse not to do the running though.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Nothing wrong with the lungs.
What's the mood like in the tip camp heading into 2024? So maybe a couple of years since the All-Ireland didn't go particularly great or as you'd want. Last year maybe can be seen as a stepping stone for hopefully kicking on again. Like, is there positivity or how do you feel about 24?
Yeah, I think it's going to be positive. Like you have a lot of young lads in there at the moment. Do you know, it's mad just even like talking to a few lads that have been around a few years. Like even in that short space of time, the panel has kind of changed so much. And you know, we're probably the older lads on the panel now. Like, so you have a lot of you coming in there who are only mad to impress and try and get onto the championship team. So you know, they're probably all going to get a lot of chances now over the next few weeks between Munster League and the league starting. So you know, they don't know any different. They're coming out of, you know, under 21 campaigns, under 20 campaigns. So they're only mad to get going and put their best foot forward. So no, I think it'll be hugely positive.
We might finish off with a quick Q&A, Michael, will we? I just have a couple of handy softball questions, Jason, so nothing to worry about here. We'll finish. What do you remember of your first time ever at Croke Park? Now, this can be as a young lad or as a player.
Yeah, I think like I might have been there maybe a couple of times beforehand, but the 2001 All-Ireland is one that kind of sticks out. I was there with my dad, and we were kind of in the top tier of Croke Park for it. And Tip obviously won the same day, so I think only like 6 or 7 at that time. But that was massive. Like Tip hadn't won since I think 91 was it before that. So you're talking 10 years. So yeah, that's probably the first big memory.
Yeah, favorite player of all time?
Owen Kelly.
Toughest opponent and why?
Toughest opponent? I'd say probably Paul Murphy, Kilkenny. Marked him a couple of times. He kind of had it everywhere. He was fast. He was strong in the air, good in the ground. You know, good touch. So probably him.
The team you most like to beat? Club, county, college, whatever?
Club, probably Templederry, our local rivals. So we can't bet a good luck. Right?
Who's been the biggest influence on your career?
There's probably been a number of them, but I'd say probably my dad. He would have been, you know, with the coaches kind of underage up all the way up along with the club, and obviously would have started us off as well. So probably him.
When you see a headline, you know, if you've done a bit of scoring and Tipperary win, and you see a headline Ford Focus, does that bore you at this stage? Have you seen it a million times over?
I don't think you ever read too much into those, do you? Like you kind of, you just kind of whatever it is, you know. So I don't think you put too much credence on it.
What's your favourite stadium to play in?
Favourite stadium? Probably Croke Park. Croke Park.
What's been the biggest disappointment of your career?
Biggest disappointment? Probably early on. I know I was coming off the bench the same year, 2014, losing that replay in 2014. You know, I felt we played some really good hurling that year, and to lose it, you know, we probably could have won it the first day, and to lose that one was tough to take.
What's the best day of your career?
2019 All-Ireland, definitely, without a doubt.
Who's the joker on the tip panel?
Joker on the tip panel. I have a few of them. I'd say probably Willie Connors. Back in there, so Willie's always good to knock a laugh out.
Right, there's a bit of sneering out of him, is there?
There is, yeah. Willie's good for no laugh. Right,
okay. Who's the best trainer?
Best trainer, actually it's hard to look past Bonner Maher, you know. It's phenomenal and to train, and fitness levels through the roof every year he comes back. So
you know the next question then, who's the worst?
Who's the worst trainer? I don't know if I'll single out any lads. There'll be a couple that will be there maybe after coming back from the Christmas break, might be lagging down the back, but we won't mention any names. I think I'll leave that up to the viewers to hazard a guess.
Who's the best dressed and the worst dressed?
Best dressed and the worst dressed. Well, there's probably a few lads probably think they're the best dressed. Who would I give it to? Let's say go with John McGrath.
For work?
simple. I know I go with best. We give him the best.
Okay, right. Who's the worst then?
The worst. Go up Craig Morgan. Yeah. Go
Right.
Craig Morgan.
What are we looking at here now? Are we looking at tweedy coats or what?
Yeah, or even some of those, tweedy shirts and stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll give it to Craig.
Michael, any questions before we let Jason go?
No, it's funny actually. Craig Morgan's Facebook profile picture is a big pair of glasses upside down playing snooker doing an impression of Dennis Taylor.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a bit of a character.
Okay, well, look, Jason, thanks very much for joining us. And for once, I actually mean it. Best of luck for 2024, and hopefully it'll be a victory for Tip.
Cheers, lads. Thanks very much.
Jason. Good man.
Okay, great to have Jason on there. We'll jump straight back into the club hurling chat. So Lough Gales 117, Cushendall 116. Mark Bergen with 9 points, 5 of those from free. Sean Bulger 1-1. David Fogarty getting those 2 points in the last maybe 15 minutes, including injury time, was crucial. Conor Heary with a couple. Owen O'Shea, Paddy Deegan and Jack Nolan with a point each. Neil McManus with 9 the other side. Joey McLaughlin 1-1. Owen Campbell with 2. And a few other players with a point each. There's some big moments in this game that we can't ignore. Number one, there's 2 instances where O'Loughlin Gales know that they were a little bit fortunate not to get red cards, where there was a connection with the head of, was it Neil McManus for the first one, Mikey Butler, and the second one was Ryan McCambridge. He had brilliantly got on the end of a clever Conor McAllister puck out down the line into space, and that wasn't the only time that McAllister did that. He was quite good with that, but he got clipped in the face by Conor Heary. Now, on both occasions, I'm not saying that the players went out to do the Cushendall players, but certainly a couple of Cushendall supporters have messaged online. They're quite upset about it because even though their team got the free on both occasions, and I think both were converted, but on both occasions, their players, took heavy hits, and the Kilkenny players didn't even see a card at all.
Yeah, it was bizarre that they didn't get yellows. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I think Conor Heary thought he was in a bit of bother. And I'd say he thought, geez, if I get away with yellow here, I'd probably be happy. I think, the Cushendall fella just sidestepped a small bit. He caught him fairly flush. Not saying there was any intent in it or anything like that, but it's the sort of thing that red cards are being thrown out for now. There's no point in saying any different. That's the way, and I've been big on head hits and the fact that we need to come down fairly strong on them, and the fact that there weren't yellow cards for either was mystifying, really, you'd have to say. And had O'Loughlin's gone down to 14, obviously that could have been potentially 13. That could have been, and even if they'd been given yellows, potentially picked up another, it would have made sure they couldn't do something else or something like that. So it was, they were strange instances, to say the least. Now, Michael Kennedy did let it go, and it made for a brilliant game. But there's letting it go, and those instances definitely needed to be dealt with. Like, do either of us want to see teams finishing with less than 15? No. But, the people have been sent off for incidents like that down the last couple of years. So are Cushendall people right to feel a bit aggrieved? They probably are, realistically.
Yeah, I think so. And like either of those instances could have changed the game. Now, we saw Killadangan going down to 14 men, and maybe they still would have gotten over the line against Clonlara that day, going down to 13, and still nearly got into a winning position. So it just shows you that going down, to 14 men mightn't necessarily decide the game. And obviously, Killadangan lost that game ultimately. But, it is frustrating. Like, you've got to be frustrated if you're a Cushendall man, but or woman or supporter of any kind. But, like, I suppose ultimately they only really have to look at their score conversion rate and say, look, we had the chances, irrespective of how many players are on the field. We had the chances. And I really do feel sorry for Neil McManus. We've had him on the show several times, and there's no player, nor to the Liffey in the whole of Ireland, that you would have wanted with that chance late on. But also then, just after it, Fergus McCambridge, he came onto a ball about 35 yards out, missed the lift, and, it was probably a fairly certain score if he had to get it up. So I'm sure they'll all, they really were kind of feeling a little bit down over that.
Yeah, Christy McNaughton came on as well and had a chance. I know it was out by the sideline, but you still would have probably been fancying him to score because he's such a good ball striker. They butchered a lot of chances, particularly in that last 10 or 15 minutes. They're obviously definitely aggrieved by those decisions or lack of decisions, and rightfully so. But they did shoot themselves in the foot a fair bit as well. Even early in the game, when they were absolutely flying, there was a couple of shots that were mishit and things like that. Just mistakes that, we'd say the the very, the cream, the absolute cream of the club crop probably wouldn't miss. That Ballygunner or Thomas's weren't missing the other night. And even like saying that, they lived fairly dangerously, because as you said, O'Loughlin's could have had 4 or 5 goals in the first half easily. Something that we'll probably get into at some stage. Like there were a decent string of like really cynical tackles again. Like Luke Hogan was pulled back when going through there. Owen Wall was then pulled back. Like, yeah, they were both like obvious goal chances. There was Fergal Boland was going through for Toreen against Castlelyons as well, and just hauled to the ground as well. It's just something that's becoming commonplace now, and unless it's knocked in the head fairly quickly, it's going to become like every teams are going to be coached to do it now, that's just the way it is. Like if you see the best team getting away with it on national television, like everybody's going to do it until the incentive is no longer there to do it. But Cushendall got so many things right and just maybe weren't able to execute to the level. They just weren't able to execute to that really, really high level in those closing moments in particular.
And, we had Mickey McShane on the show on Thursday, and he was saying that he thought Cushendall would get the win here. And I mean, for long spells, they led for 50 minutes of the game. And I know it's about who leads when the final whistle goes. And, if the game went on another 5 minutes, God knows who would have been ahead. But O'Loughlin's were the ones who kept their heads when it came down the straight, just that little bit more. And, we talked about it earlier in the show. Both teams converted just 2 of their final 10 chances. So it just shows you it was pandemonium probably psychologically for these players out there. You know yourself, when you're in a big game and you're out there, you can sort of feel that there's a little bit of disarray or whatever. And it's about who's got more players that can stay cooler under pressure. And that's why I thought O'Loughlin's would get over the line, because I was looking at, like, you have Hugh Lawler, the square is going to be safe. And for a lot of the game, bar maybe the first 15 minutes when, Joseph McLaughlin got his brilliant goal. Ronan McAteer had a bit of a half chance that was blocked around the 21. But the point is that they were kind of getting in behind O'Loughlin Gales. And any time a puck out was hit long and Paddy Deegan was looking to sweep, he was surrounded. So he wasn't let dictate the game. But as it wore on, and the injuries, which of course, and substitutions that Cushendall had to make. They made just 1 in the Ulster final. They had to make 4 or 5 here. And I don't think all of them were substitutions that they necessarily wanted to make. Like McAteer going off injured, that was huge because it meant that Neil McManus had to come out the field. Now, maybe he would have anyway, just to get into the game more. But to me, it kind of meant after a while, Cushendall knew they weren't going to get any change by pucking the ball inside to where Hugh Lawler and Mikey Butler. Now, Butler moved out the field a bit, but they knew they weren't going to get any change there. So they nearly had to win it within 100 yards of their own goal, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And like having Deegan, Lawler, Butler, and obviously Fogarty scored those crucial points late on. But to me, it just seemed like they had much closer to the team that they would want to finish with, as they were coming down the stretch. Bringing on Paddy Butler, who set up the crucial score at the end. It just felt a little bit like Cushendall ran out of kind of, the more key players that they would have wanted to have on the field. I know it's a little bit harsh, but I think it came down to that.
No, a small bit, yeah. Obviously, there was various knocks, which meant they had to go pretty deep into their squad. They didn't go that deep, obviously, as you said, in the Ulster final. O'Loughlin's have that 18 or 19 that they always pull from and that they're very, very happy to pull from. Just a hat tip to Shawnee Bulger as well. Like any good corner forward, like following that shot in, it kind of looked half borderline when he pulled across the goalie or not. When you look back at it, I think it was fine. But like that's just that's a poacher's instinct. That's a lad following it in no matter what. Like I was going to say you can't coach it, but you can. Like you just keep kind of beating into them that you just follow a ball in regardless. You never know what'll happen. That was crucial for them because that came at such an important time. I'm even thinking as well, was it Evan Ho or was it Luke Hogan that went through in the first half as well? Remember he ended up dropping the ball down and it was a drop hook almost and ended up hitting it wide. Like did some great goal chances in the first. Didn't execute. Then you're kind of thinking they've got themselves back in the game here, but they easily could be level or potentially ahead going in at half time. Just a word on Paddy Burke as well. Like just how he was like he is sweet now. Like he is as sweet of a cornerback as you'll ever get. Like it's great to it's great to see lads like that at close quarters. Like even it was him that delivered, a lovely 40-yard ball to McManus for the long range point. Razor like put over that point himself as well. Like who thought, who knew a cornerback could be so dangerous? Like, you know what I mean? Dangerous going forward offensively. I thought he was brilliant in defeat as well.
Yeah, like for a lot of game, like I was there in Navan, so it's easier to sort of see the shapes of the team and so on. So it was generally 2 up front for Cushendall. And for a lot of the first half in particular, not maybe quite so much in the second half, it was just Luke Hogan who was playing inside because, even if he has started out and been a back for most of his life, the ball does stick to him. He's able to win it. He's able to turn. And obviously Liam Gillen had to do the Irish whip on him at one stage when he still, bundled through, and it allowed Sean Bulger to bundle the ball home. But then Paddy Burke had to go backwards closer to his own goal. And, we did talk about that on Thursday. Would they want to keep Paddy Burke further out the field and let him be the offensive threat that he did actually provide? But once he went back, Luke Hogan's influence kind of waned a nice bit. And I suppose at the other end, Owen Campbell, he was really, really influential, probably earlier in the game, got himself a couple of points. And this didn't last now, but for a while, Conor Heary seemed to be on him, or maybe he went on Heary. It could be hard to tell at times. But his influence probably wasn't quite to the same level in the second half. Now, he did have a couple of scoring chances to maybe add to what he'd already gotten in the first half, but maybe he just didn't quite have the same influence. And then, as I said, digging into the bench, it's okay getting 1 and maybe 2, and then those players can still perform. But when you get 4 or 5, especially in All-Ireland Club semi-final, it can be a little bit more difficult and tricky. And I suppose when you look at Cushendall scoring just 2 points from play after approximately the 20th minute, it's no real surprise that if it was going to finish tightly, that they would come out the wrong side of it.
Yeah, Asher, O'Loughlin's used all their nous and experience down the home straight, really. Even they forced Neil McManus to take a shot from which is probably a lower percentage type of area. He was probably happy to do so, I suppose, and even to score from out the pitch, which is a lower percentage one as well. I just loved the end of the game. Reminded me a lot at the end of the 2018 All Ireland. It was who was it? Richie McCarthy that ran out with the ball, or that was running out with the ball?
No, Tom Condon.
Tom Condon caught it and was running out like that,
Oh.
And it was David Fogarty, wasn't it, the other day? It was just brilliant, and like the whistle blew, and he was in on top of the O'Loughlin's bench, the dugout there. It was just a brilliant finale. Like, what was it like? Atmosphere-wise? Like, because you cannot beat the Provincial ground for just, it's a cacophony of sound. Everyone's in on top of each other. It's real concentrated noise, and I think that played into 2 crackers at the weekend. Basically, both games been in provincial venues.
And it just shows you, like, would that game have been lost at Croke Park? What sort of atmosphere would we have had? Nothing by comparison. So yeah, I was there. I was doing co-commentary with RTE Radio. Myself and Pádraig Lodge were doing it. And like, you could just feel like, so we're at the top, at the press box at the top of the stand. And like, obviously the stand is coming down over you. So all the noise is more or less trapped in and reverberating around. It was brilliant. And you know what, like 5 or 10 minutes after the game, like all the players were out on the pitch. Half of each parish was around them, both parishes side by side. How often are you going to have like a parish from Antrim and a parish from Kilkenny side by side? Everyone's mixing around, and I mean, obviously the Cushendall people are disappointed, but everyone's in sort of relatively good spirits. It's that familial atmosphere. Like, it was so good, but just what preceded that, those final couple of moments, it just felt like it was just pure suspense. It was glorious. Like, it was brilliant to be there. Disappointing for Cushendall.
It was madness, shit. That's what it is. It was the chaotic madness that hurling can be. When played properly, and when you have a good kind of tight game like that, you hadn't got a clue what was going to happen from second to second, and that's the beauty of hurling, because the ball can move so fast, things can happen so quickly. You couldn't confidently call that game at any stage. Same with the one on Saturday night.
Yeah, like you felt sorry for the Liverpool and Man United players trying to follow that up on Sky Sports afterwards, and it was absolutely.
I got it. Like, just poles apart. As my father always says, "Oh, soccer 0-0." How would you watch that after watching 117 to 116 or whatever it was?
PWell 74 says Ballygunner panel was poor. Well, okay, right, it was poor with no sub used until extra time. That's surprising for a club team that has won a lot at every age. But you were proved right, Mike. If they pointed their frees, they would have won. I don't know if the panel is poor just because the panel isn't used. That's a decision by management. And obviously they did bring on a couple of lads late on. I think it was Cormac Power and Harry Ruddle came on.
Billy O'Keefe.
Billy O'Keefe also, who was on the club team of the year a couple of years ago, and Harry Ruddle, who obviously scored the goal that won them the All-Ireland 2 years ago. I don't think you can say their panel, that's a really deep panel. It's just a decision of management to not use the panel. And like, was it a mistake to not use the panel a little bit earlier?
I would have thought so, Shane, because they weren't playing like they normally would. Like, you know, Desi was on form, Patrick Fitzgerald was on form, Peter Hogan was on form at times. I think when John Head went back on him, he tied him up a good because he had a really, really good first maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I probably would. I'm surprised they didn't spring maybe around the 52nd, 53rd minute. Just fresh legs, kind of fresh ideas. And even like I know we'll chat about it in a minute, but I just thought actually Dicksboro used their subs unbelievably well in the Camogie yesterday when they needed a bit of a bounce. They had experience on the line. I think it's a peculiar one because it's not as if they don't have lots of options on the line. Like, if you're Billy O'Keefe, you probably would feel hard done by that you're only getting the minutes you're getting. Same with Harry Ruddle and same with Cormac Power and same with several other guys that didn't get a run, you know. And I think Thomas has used their bench really well. They had everybody fit and available to them. And they brought lads in when they needed a bit of a fresh impetus, like Evan Duggan coming in. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they had lads coming in and making a big impact all over the pitch, which was huge for them.
Yeah, so over the course of the game, and, you know, within extra time, you get extra subs and so on, and some lads were brought back in. St. Thomas has used 8 different substitutes, and the latest that any substitute was brought on was the 72nd minute. On the other side, Ballygunner used their first sub in the 75th minute, and then 2 in the 75th minute, and the next one in the 79th. So it just tells you a real difference in terms of, like, you're looking at, and this is we're huge fans of Ballygunner. You're talking about one half of a city, more or less, and stretching out into the countryside compared with Thomas's. And I'm not saying it's tiny, but obviously it's nowhere near, you know, by comparison with an urban area like what we see in that side of Waterford City. Like, for them to use more of their panel, it just seems strange more so than anything else.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever come in as a sub, I'd like a bit of time. Do you know what I mean? Coming in the 85th minute of extra time with 5 minutes to go, you might get one play or one touch, and it has to be perfect. Whereas the Thomas's boys, probably Kenneth Burke and co, Robbie Lane and the boys, they probably gave their squad plenty of time to get into a game. It was funny with Duggan coming in and getting a yellow straight away, and the second he was in on the pitch.
So he said afterwards, he was bull taking the interview afterwards, saying everyone was writing us off that we were a waste of time. Now I loved the interview,
and we loved that. Yeah. But like they were, and like, you know, probably realistically, Shane, rightfully so. They'd won 6 in a row in Galway, but they delivered a real non-performance against Dunley last year when everybody thought they were going to win. They probably haven't been the most reliable at different stages. I'm thinking back to the Bursa League All-Ireland semi-final as well, which they weren't. Yeah, Bally's. Do you know what I mean? So, and look, we'll chat about this in January, in before the third weekend in January. But it's that reliability now going into the final. Now, are we going to get something similar in the final? Because I have a fair idea what we're going to get from O'Loughlin's. I maybe wouldn't be as confident with what we're going to get from Thomas's. But what we got the other night was, what we got the other night was brilliant. Like, just going through some of the performances, like Keane Matney was under pressure from Desi early on. Thought he settled in really, really well. Like, I don't know what it is about that left-handed style. There's something about it. It's like, it seems to get extra roars from the crowd when that clearance is coming. I don't know. It's like Paddy Marr or whatever back in the day. It just seems to get an extra kind of, you know, noise out of it. I thought Fintan Burke, like, was it Mikey Mahoney or Kevin Matney he was picking up?
That which player was?
Fintan Burke was picking up 14. It was is it Kevin Mahoney?
Kevin Mahoney, yeah.
Yeah. He kept him very quiet, and even like I thought they used Fintan Burke really well when he picked up the knock as well. He was the one that caught the puck out for the leveling score. He was the one that made the solo to draw them near the end as well. Now I would have a bit of question marks about. I definitely would have question marks about 2 of those frees. Like, I thought Fintan Burke bought the last free, and I thought he half bought the one where he was solo on as well. Like, I thought his hand went up. And listen, Johnny Murphy bought what he was selling. I also thought it was peculiar when Johnny Murphy blew the final whistle. Like, Conor Sheehan was down for a minute. There was a minute between Fintan Burke being fouled and Conor Cooney taking the free. And it was almost like Johnny Murphy just decided, all right, lads, it's level. That's it. We're going to penalty, or we're going to extra time. I thought that was peculiar as well, now I have to say. But there were so many talking points, flash points within, like, an amazing game.
Yeah, and Stephen O'Keefe scoring a point from 114 yards. Now I know he had the wind behind him, but what a strike! And he's been doing that for years, whether it's in challenge matches, even where people across the country wouldn't really know about it. But like, he's been doing it for Ballygunner for years anyway. But also I remember I was Xing you know, what is that what we call posting on X these days? Anyway, I did put down X at some stage that Finton Burke, great solo, but it was a soft free. But I'd also done it earlier on a couple of times about Ballygunner. Like Shane O'Sullivan at one stage completely manufactured a free, leaned into the contact and then went swimming, and he won a free. I think both teams did it. By the way, Shane O'Sullivan, considering he's on the road longer than any Ballygunner player, I'm not sure exactly what age he is, but I thought he was really good, especially as it went into... He made his debut in 2002, so he's on the go there for 21, heading on probably 22 seasons. I think he was 16 back then, based on what Wikipedia says, however much you can trust Wikipedia. But I thought he was really, really good, and it was probably some of the older players that had the cool heads as the pandemonium was ensuing, like David Burke, who's only back from a cruciate that he suffered in, was it March or April that he got the operation? I think it was April, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he only came on for a few minutes in the county final, whatever it was, 7 or 8 weeks ago. And here he is playing 80 plus minutes. And you know what? I think of an example back in 2018 when we played that Club All-Ireland. Paul Shootout had not played at all from the Leinster final up until the All-Ireland final, which was March 17th. So he was out for the guts of 3 months or whatever. And he played the full 80 minutes when that game went to extra time against Napiershik. And then the following week, same injury, rips the hamstring off the bone, so he's out for the rest of the calendar year. And I'm just thinking, for Davy Burke's sake, it's a really good thing that they're not playing the following weekend, that they don't have a replay. Whatever about penalties, I think it's really good for him that he doesn't have a replay, and he'd probably need a few weeks to make sure his body calms down and any tightness kind of goes away, because, you know, you just do not want a recurrence of that particular type of injury.
No, definitely not. Like, it was ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous what he did the other night. Like, I thought he was snarling now. He was snarling from minute one to the end. He was getting stuck into everybody. I just thought he was using every bit of experience that he's accumulated over the last 15 years or so playing adult hurling. And you know what I love as well? And it happened with Brendan Maher when Bursley went on the run. Like, David Burke's a great player and Brendan Maher is a great player as well. But I think lads can really cement their legacy with a great club run. I think Brendan Maher cemented his legacy, like the point in the Munster final, the point with the half of the hurl, like that'll never be forgotten. I don't think David Burke's performance the other night will never be forgotten. Like that point he got looking away from the goals, like absolutely ridiculous stuff. And just the fact like that he was still going strong at the end. And it's mad to say it, and I said it on last Thursday's show. Imagine to say, like, we were saying, Ballygunner, obviously, we thought they were the best team in the country. I think nearly everybody did outside of Peterswell, Kilcrease. I think nearly everybody thought they were the best team in the country. And now we're in a scenario where by the weekend of the 21st of January, Thomas's could have more All-Irelands than Ballygunner have. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of where we are. And it's amazing. And like, this is probably gone off in a different direction completely. And I have unbelievable respect for Ballygunner and what they've achieved. Like, what they've achieved, the 3 in a row Munster, is phenomenal. But like, have they underachieved at a national level based on what they have? Do you know what I mean? And they've gotten to unbelievably high levels, but they've only been in one All-Ireland final. Like, it's actually crazy when you think about it. Really, like, when you look at the talent that they have. Now, we did flag it months ago that the passage that they had to an All-Ireland final was by far and away nearly tougher than anybody else. Maybe outside of O'Loughlin's. Yeah, maybe outside of O'Loughlin's. And maybe the results don't suggest that, because they beat Sarsfield's handy and they beat Clonlara handy and they had a tough game against Napiershik. Maybe they were undercooked in some respect going into playing what they played the other night and in the conditions that they played in. It was tough going now. It looked like tough going on the legs. It slowed them down a small bit. I thought it was a bit of an equaliser, but like, fair play to Thomas's. They brought the thunder, but they brought the execution with it as well. I thought they executed brilliantly. Like, Éanna Burke clipped over some lovely points. James Regan only got maybe 2 chances in normal time. He converted both. The goal had to be emphatic. I thought some of the scores they put over were emphatic, and they built up all the hurt the last year's semi-final, harnessed it, and it was produced. Like, what's a better club game in history than that? Like,
Ballygunner against Ballyhale was a pretty good final a couple of years ago.
It's a good game, but it wasn't like I don't think it was like that now. It's just because
Portumna Ballyhale that time.
Portumna Ballyhale, but Portumna won handy enough. I think it was the billing more so than anything else. I'm probably thinking of Ballyhale, Tommyvara, All-Ireland Club semi-final in Portlaoise, where they came from 9 down. Borough and Clare Castle replay in 98. I did a list of them before.
Dare I suggest our replay with Na Piarsaigh?
Belter of a game. Class game. Brilliant game. A lot of those have provincial venues in common as well, to be honest with you, actually, funnily enough.
Yeah, and I think that's the place to have these games. Fair enough if you're going to have 80,000 at Croke Park. Brilliant, so it can accommodate it. And 2017, I think there was about 40,000 at Croke Park. So, that's justifiable. But even so, like in a lot of cases, maybe Thurles is the place to play some of these games if you think you're going to have 20, 30,000. A comment here from Conor Heaney on Ballygunner. They're a Harry Ruddle goal from being complete failures, which is, that's going in two-footed. They did, after all, win 3 Munster titles in a row, which hasn't been done before. 36 and counting. Massive underachievement. That's not true, Vernie. Waterford Championship is awful, and Munster bang average. Nisha Waldron.
Is he not contradicting himself there? I'm not sure what he means. Like, is he saying it is a massive underachievement?
Okay, well, look, he's obviously a Kilkenny man, so he's looking to go in hard on anyone who isn't Kilkenny. So can you clarify a little bit on that? Nisha Waldron, who does co-commentary on TG Carr all the time, talking about Ballygunner, who he played with for a while, have they underachieved, or just that winning Club All-Irelands aren't just a given? Just because you win Munster, the semi-final stages are always magical. And then a couple of people bring up that Claren Bridge against De La Salle was a classic. That was the one with the late goal. Was it Kevin Moran who scored that late goal? No, it wasn't. Who scored that late goal?
There was that many late things happening. Claren Bridge were the ones that got the goal to win it.
Yeah, sorry, we interviewed Kevin Moran and we were asking him about it before. That's why I talked Kevin Moran.
A quick one for you, Jano, as well. I'd a fella DM me last night, said he wanted to put a question to you on the show. He said, does Shane still think it's a good idea for the Connacht champions or Galway champions to go into Munster so they can bring up the standard of Munster Club Ireland? It's gas, because as much as you're saying your Munster kind of loving, it's another year where there won't be a Munster Club All Ireland winner. Yeah,
but I'm only really interested in can a Tipperary club winning the Club All Ireland. I don't really care about the rest of them.
The answer is no.
Yeah, I still think it'd be good if St. Thomas's went into Leinster or Munster. No, I definitely do. And there's only 3 teams who compete in the Ulster Championship every year. So look, I think it might have to get to a stage sooner rather than later where, and then, to be honest, I wouldn't even bother with provincial championships at this stage. I would just love that open draw where you have 16 counties or whatever, and it's totally open draw. It's unseeded, the whole lot, double headers going on all around the country. Don't tell me that wouldn't be brilliant.
Yeah, well, it would be good now, in fairness. It would be good, yeah.
Okay, 36 and counting is clarifying. He says, Vernie was saying Ballygunner would have a hard run to the All-Ireland. O'Loughlin and Gales miles harder. I would even say St. Thomas's had more battles in Galway alone than Ballygunner had.
I would have said maybe not a hard run, a longer run though, anyway, because it was their 4th game, whereas it was Thomas's 1st game, if you get me, having come out of Galway. But I take your point on that. They probably had, based on scorelines, did one really tough game, and that was against Na Piarsaigh.
St. Thomas's lowered the blade, though, didn't they? And I say this in a way where I'm complimenting them. They went in hard. They weren't going to stand back and watch Ballygunner hurl. And Ballygunner matched them toe for toe the whole way. We didn't see the usual thing of, what we saw from Ballygunner in the Munster Championship, where they kept the Cork, Limerick and Clare Championships to under an average of 13 points per game. They bossed them, and ultimately they broke their spirits. And when it got to the 3/4 mark of most games, they started popping the ball around, getting lovely scores, feeding Desi Hutchinson inside, Patrick Fitzgerald inside, Kevin Mahoney, who was, strangely quiet for him because he had such a good season. And they were just popping it around, and it was right or over stuff. St. Thomas's were like, that's not happening here. No matter what way, you're going to give us a pound of flesh if you're going to win here today. And I have to credit St. Thomas's for that. And a couple of times, they went over the line. I think it was Éanna Burke who lowered the blade big time on, was it Kevin Mahoney in the first half and got away with it. But you kind of have to play on the edge if you're going to be able to keep into a team with the quality that Ballygunner have. And I just think, as much as Ballygunner would say we should have had a few frees here, there and everywhere, I thought a couple of times Ballygunner might have got frees that, maybe they didn't fully merit. And I know that happened on both sides. But as far as I'm concerned, I didn't come away from the game thinking the referee decided this. it was a flip of a coin, and ultimately Evan Duggan buried the ball and had the cojones to do it, and that's what it came down to.
I'd say a lot of it was Ballygunner got soft frees. I'd say Thomas has probably got a couple of softish frees just at really crucial times. That was all really. It was at the crucial time, maybe in normal time as well. But totally agree with you. Like, Thomas has absolutely hounded Ballygunner. There was a stage there where Ballygunner had a line ball under the stand, maybe around 14 yards out. Ball was worked across. I think it was to Kevin Mahoney, and who's back defending? Davy Burke, Éanna Burke, the full forward, and Conor Cooney. Like, Conor Cooney was back. He gave away a couple of frees at different stages, but he was back there as an extra body. I thought defensively, it's probably like he was getting in that tackle. He was making a lad turn. He was making sure that they weren't striking on the front foot. And I thought he did a hell of a lot of dirty stuff that maybe the whole time you wouldn't associate with his game. And then he was also like, he was stroking over the frees. He was taking the wind out of the equation in the frees completely. They were just dead straight. And even the one to bring it to extra time, you never really felt there was any doubt. I hadn't noticed it either as well. Like, I didn't really, he must spin the hurl about 25 times before he hits the free. It's the Roger Federer waiting for the return and, you know, spinning the racket or whatever. I hadn't noticed it as much maybe until the other night, but I thought he was brilliant, both defensively and offensively as well, and from the place balls.
I thought it took him a while to get into the game, but when the pressure was on, when they needed to pop over those frees late on into the teeth of that wind, I think that's, I mean, obviously he's an experienced player. He's on the run since 2012 as an inter-county player. So, you know, he's not a young man, but I really thought this was a huge day for him over the course of his career. You know, this is a day where he'll always say, well, look, I stepped up when it really mattered. And he scored the first penalty as well. Now, of the 7 penalties, I think it was 9 penalties were taken and 6 of them were converted, 3 were missing. Only 1 was missed out of St. Thomas's 5 penalties. And I'm not being mean to the person. They've won and they're true. But just, I'm testing your memory. Who missed the penalty for St. Thomas's?
I never forget it because of the style and the way he stepped up. It was Fintan Burke, and it wasn't a bad penalty either.
Yeah.
It's the first lad I've seen taking a penalty that took no run back whatsoever. He stood right beside the ball, which I thought was interesting. I never thought, like, this is another issue I have with penalties. Desi Hutchinson was brilliant at different stages throughout the game, lit up the game, and like, is all we're going to remember now the fact that he missed a penalty. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like that part of it really. I prefer if it was decided on the pitch, but I thought Stephen O'Keefe was going to be the difference in the penalty shootout, if I'm honest, and he was close to saving a couple. He's so big in the goals, and he's like, his span, you know, they talk about boxers like reach and that. His span is huge. Like, he covers the goal. He literally makes himself like, you know, one of those like snow angels. He nearly makes himself like one of them in the goals. Like, he looks so big. And how cool did he slot away his penalty as well? Like, you know, and I just saw him after the game as well. Like, we talk about Neil McManus going around to all the O'Loughlin lads after. Like, Stephen O'Keefe was actively seeking out the Thomas's lads after, like, to say congratulations. Like, very gracious in victory, but also gracious in defeat as well. And I'm sure they will be back. No doubt they will be back. But this will hurt, like, because after getting their hands on the All Ireland with the Harry Ruddle goal, they probably would have felt maybe they could have got done 2 in a row, beaten in semi-final last year by, you know, a Ballyhale team that were stung. Ballygunner probably should have been the team that were maybe stung coming into this year, but Thomas has harnessed a hell of a lot of hurt from the Dunlough game, and it was like a complete performance, wasn't it?
It really was. But like, they were under pressure too. Patrick Fitzgerald scored 1-4, Desi Hutchinson 1-4. Do you think it was a bit of a mistake taking off Patrick Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
Like, one of your best ball strikers as a penalty taker, and he scored 1-4.
Did you not think it was very strange when he was going off? Like, he was like nearly sprinting off the pitch. I was like, this lad has way more to give. I was like, not in a month of Sundays would he be taking this lad off. And they loved the point he got close to the terrace in the second half. I kind of tweeted
with the feet.
He's so good at decelerating. He decelerates so fast. Like, if you're the defender, you're trying to get up on his shoulder to make sure that you put pressure on him winning the ball. Then all of a sudden he decelerates. You're gone past, and he's bought the yard. Desi did it in the first half as well. And lads are so afraid with Desi's pace to overcommit, because if you overcommit, you're gone. And he's in through for a goal. But I just thought the two of them. I always said Andy Moran was the best, you know, GA player to decelerate, and he probably still is. But the two boys are the two boys aren't exactly trotting too far behind him now.
And I suppose, like, when you look at the subs that were taken off, and ultimately maybe this is the problem, when you've got a really strong team, it can be hard to take lads off, especially if you've a load of county panelists. And, you know, those of us that were trying to get into the Coola team at the time would have felt the same thing, because, you know, you have a lot of Dublin players there, hard to take them off and so on and so forth. But the 3 lads that came off and obviously weren't available for penalties could all potentially start for Waterford next year. I'm not sure if Conor Sheehan is on the panel or whatever, but you know, yeah. So like he could. Peter Hogan was taken off, Patrick Fitzgerald was. And I was almost like, okay, there's an awful lot of lads there that you would never dream of taking off. But, you know, those 3, you would have thought any one of the 3 of those could take a penalty. And look, we're not trying to slag off the lads who miss penalties. There's unbelievable pressure, and there's no guarantee any of the other lads would have scored them. But isn't that the whole point of it? You do kind of end up kind of splitting hairs and doing the autopsy afterwards. And maybe we're more fussed over it than the Ballygunner lads are. But I don't think anyone would think we're trying to take Atton away from Ballygunner, because no one has celebrated them more than we have.
Oh no, far from it. Far from it. Yeah, I'm like, we're splitting hairs there, but I'm sure they will be as well. Like, because it's just like, I don't know. I've said it before with the penalties. Like, you've lost, but you haven't lost. Do you know what I mean? It's a funny kind of a one.
It's not. You've lost. You've straight up lost, right? Okay, right. We asked Jason Ford about it earlier in terms of the penalties and all that kind of stuff. And there's only so many weeks in the year. And I think you do need some sort of a playoff penalty type situation at the end of the game. And a lot of people kind of replied to me with different type of comments in terms of what you would do outside of penalties. What would you do if it wasn't going to be penalties and we needed to decide the game on the day? Is there any better alternative than penalty? Is there any better alternative?
Yeah, no, I think it should be settled with 15 on 15. I'd probably say consecutive scores. First team to get consecutive scores wins.
From the start of extra time.
From the start of extra time, yeah.
So no such thing as we'll play.
No. From the start of extra time. If you get me, I'm saying if you can't be separated after the 10 minutes of extra time, maybe you play. Well, they used to play an extra 5 minutes each side, didn't they? But I'd say after extra time, after 8 minutes, if you can't be separated, first to get consecutive scores.
Okay, but then I'll tell you why I think that I wouldn't go with that. So let's say, 80 minutes have gone, Cushendall and O'Loughlin Gales. One is a city club, one is a smaller rural area. And all of a sudden you're saying, okay, another 2 sets of 5 there. You've got, and you could say the same about St. Thomas's and Ballygunner. You've got a big urban area with a massive pick versus a small area with that's basically buttressed by families. And to be honest, so are Ballygunner. But you know what I mean? They've obviously got a much bigger pick. They've got a Premier Intermediate team that does very well in Waterford and so on. Is it fair to then say, okay, keep digging into your panel into your tiny parish versus keep digging into your panel in your big parish? And basically, does your catchment area dictate who's going to ultimately win in those scenarios? In a lot of cases, like you saw Clonmorris, you watched Clonmorris win the All-Ireland Intermediate Camogie with a pick of 17 players. So that shows you the very sharp end of the stick there. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it can be down to one player making a mistake. And, it's kind of a harsh reality. You're throwing out probably different levels of player based on the pick.
Is it fair? Yes, it's 100% fair. It's a hell of a lot fairer to 5 lads standing up hitting penalties, which is nearly an absolute lottery. I dispel that argument completely. It's far fairer for the game to be won on the pitch than in a lottery of penalties. And if you have, I don't think it's to do with urban areas versus rural areas. Rural areas you could still have. Thomas had probably used their squad a lot better than Ballygunner the other day, but they had a very strong 21, maybe 22 players. I don't think that comes into it. My argument is that the game should be won on the pitch. And just also as well, lads saying about, and there was a strong breeze going into the same end actually. Or was it going into the same end? No, different ends of the 2 grounds over the weekend. If it's a case of the coin toss, maybe it's, let's just say, Ballygunner had 2 goals going into extra time and Thomas has only had 1. Maybe, instead of a toss, whoever has more goals gets to choose what direction they want to play, shall we say, for extra time or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just a tiny little reward for if you've hit the net twice and the other team hasn't scored a goal at all, you get to pick what side you want to play into or whatever. That would be my kind of way around that. But no, I'd be a big believer in winning the game on the pitch and someone, the team having to win rather than an individual scoring a penalty.
Okay, I'll give you some of the other thoughts that we had. Okay, first off, here was a poll that I did after the game. Penalties, class or crap? 49.7% said class, 50.3% said crap. So that tells you how split down the middle we are. Some of the different suggestions that we have. Kevin Egan says ice hockey style shootout. Same sudden death element, but specific to hurling. 1-on-1, the attacker takes possession just outside the arc and can't handle the ball once they cross it. 15 seconds to strike, timed by the linesman. Derek Lynch of Clare FM, he says hurling first to score 3 points or the first goal, whichever comes first. Play an open period until that happens. He says the same with Gaelic football, only with 2 points. William Gleason says forward versus defender 1-on-1. Attacking team hits the ball in from the 65 when whistle is blown. Forward has to score a point or can score a goal. Defender has to clear the ball out of player beyond 65. First to 5 points. If 2 goals are scored and not answered, game over. So there's a lot of different suggestions. I think of all of the suggestions, the notion of first to either get 2 points clear or score a goal from the start of extra time, just from the start straight up. So it's less of a thing about like how big is your panel and, you know, how big of an urban area or catchment area you're from.
I do first to get back-to-back scores if you're still level after the 2 periods of extra time. But there's some gas suggestions in there. Like there's one of them there. It's like an old drill we used to do where there'd be a back and a forward lined up, and they say be me and you, and then there'd be another two, and we'd each have a number from 1 to 6. And when the number was called, a ball was played into the forward, and the forward had to try and score. The defender had to try and clear the ball. Like, that'd be a mad way to finish the game now.
Yeah, we might struggle to get too many of those suggestions through Congress anyway, but it's still good to talk about. The more to talk about, like Tumivara have put in this a motion via Tipperary GA that will go to Congress about getting rid of the penalties. But does that just mean going back to replays? There isn't room for that.
I think, Shane, like if you're getting rid of something, you have to make a viable suggestion, a viable replacement. Unless there's like that, because that's not a solution to the problem. Unless like there's a bit of a problem there, as your vote would suggest, people are split on it. And I think a lot of it is as well. Like I don't know, like GA folk have always been very, very slow to bow the head to anything like soccer related, and penalty shootout would be considered like soccer related, like, you know, foreign games as they would have said back in the day, like, or whatever. But like
garrison games,
yeah. So like I think there's going to be a resistance to that for a hell of a long time. People probably will get used to it. Maybe they'll just ride out a storm and they'll keep doing it, but there's still a fair bit of resistance to it, because I don't know. Yeah, I just think we could find a simplistic enough way to finish a game that doesn't require that.
Yeah, I still like penalties, but I do agree that it would be fair to have first to get 2 scores clear, 2 points clear, or first to score a goal. Yeah, I think that would be really, really exciting.
A goal would be unreal. Yeah, if you score a goal in extra time, game over.
Yeah, or 2 points ahead, either or. But it would just make it very exciting. Because imagine you're 1 point down, and then the opposition is heading up the field, looking to score their second one. All of a sudden, turnover, bang, goal, the other end, game's over.
Bang, back in the net.
yeah. Can you imagine then if there was like a contentious goal? Oh, Lord almighty, the pressure the referees would be under. And actually, I might use that just conversation about the referees to talk about, there might be a blue flu coming in Dublin pretty soon. So the referees seem to be banding together. They had a meeting very recently. And there is talk that, you know, at the start of the league, which will probably, if we're to go on last year, it was kind of mid-February that the Football League started, very end of February that the Hurling League started, that there is talk of the referees withdrawing their services if it isn't taken seriously, basically their concerns over referee welfare. We've seen a lot of, you know, violence, abuse going towards referees. They're talking about kind of mental health and how that's affecting them. And obviously we're seeing a huge, like, the amount of referees fall off the face of the cliff. So this is a real issue now, and it's not going away.
Well, it's a real issue, and it's gotten to the point where, you know, games aren't going to go ahead very, very soon. It's looking like it's kind of been brewing in the background. There've been various kind of incidents, you know, and videos kind of circulated left, right, and centre or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you know, love them or hate them, we need referees in order for our games to go ahead. And, you know, it just needs to be made. Number one, it needs to be made more appetizing for people to get into refereeing. Number two, like you've mentioned the body cam before, there are different things that need to be put in place by the GA to make sure that referees are protected a hell of a lot more as well. And I think, like, geez, like, you would be mad to get involved in refereeing now at the minute when you see some of the instances that are going on. But like, remember, like, even, I know that was Turkish football, but your man coming in and peeling the referee with a box, like, Jesus Christ, like, it's mad. Like, that's a professional game where you're thinking there should be security all around the referee, and this shouldn't really happen. So, like, imagine what can happen in a Division 4 league game out some country ground where there's no, the sidelines are nearly on top of the pitch and this kind of thing. But it's a national problem that the GA are really going to have to get hold of, because there's knock-on effects of this. And even the last couple of years, the standard refereeing has probably dropped. Like, me and you talk about refereeing decisions here and there at, let's say, elite level club hurling or elite level county hurling. But you go and see some, county league games around different counties, and you see the standard refereeing. You go to, not as far as you go to ladies football and camogie games, and you see, like, lower again. So, like, you'd be pulling your hair out at different times with different stuff that goes on. So we definitely need to be incentivizing it for referees to get involved in the game, and we need to be giving them a hell of a lot more protection than they have at the minute.
Yeah, good comment here from 36 and counting. Is there a Tip/Burris Lee season review next Monday?
I couldn't say, imagine live here from the dinner, from the Christmas table with Saint Senior. I tell you that, you get good views for that.
Yeah, he'd have a fair old cut. He'd have plenty of opinions. But just the other thing then about should we have all the club finals together? Let's say senior club, intermediate, junior, all on the one day. And there's going to be 3 Kilkenny clubs there, right? So you can imagine the huge amount of people from Kilkenny are going to be going to these finals. If all 3 of them were the one day, you'd probably have a huge cohort. Like, for example, yesterday, and at least the games were put in such a way that you could get to both. You had O'Loughlin Gales, a city club, playing out in Navan, and then Dicksboro playing the All-Ireland Camogie final. Was it 5:15 was the throw in there? Something like that. So you could get to both, because even though they're both city clubs and they're rivals or whatever, there's probably like families that sort of bridge the divide and so on. So yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have the 3 hurling levels all played together, and the same with the 3 football.
It probably does make sense. Like, I remember being at Borough Ireland finals back in the day and staying on to watch Ballygunner and someone playing in one final. I remember seeing Colin Corkery won a Club All Ireland one of the days Borough were up there. We're probably in the minority of people that were staying on, though, realistically, because once your final is done, you either want to go and celebrate or commiserate with your club people or whatever. And there's probably a lot of the time, I know we're all Gaels or whatever, but there's not as much interest from hurling folk in football, and maybe vice versa as well. Maybe it would make a hell of a lot more sense for, maybe it might be difficult, a time of the year to have the 3 games on the same day, and the senior final could actually suffer pitch-wise as a result of that. But maybe the same weekend or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, maybe there's merit to that. And I just have to drop off now, Shane. But just quickly before I go, I was in Croke Park last night for the Camogie final. Sarsfields were obviously strong enough favourites going into it, going for 3 in a row, trying to equal the feats of Kilkerran Clonberne the night before, who beat Ballymacarbery in the ladies football final. Dicksboro had never won a Leinster title until this year. Just produced a brilliant performance yesterday. It looked like Sarsfields had turned the screw in the third quarter, but they brought on Lucinda Gahan, who was a former Kilkenny captain. Aoife Prendergast was absolutely brilliant for the Borough, and they were the ones that thundered to the finish. I think they outscored them 7 points to 1 down the home straight, and it was really weird. I know you've been in Croke Park I think you interviewed Shane Walsh down on the steps of the Hogan stand one time. It's really strange being at the Camogie final. Like, I was basically out in the pitch doing interviews after, which is deadly, because Croke Park is like sacrosanct. You can never get anywhere near there. It was crazy to be down there, but just brilliant scenes for the Borough. And it was funny chatting to their manager Donald Carroll after. I said, like, what were your takeaways from the game or whatever. He said, to be honest with you, the whole thing completely passed me by. It's my first time up here. I got lost in it all. It's gas, like, here, and they won the game, and he'll get to go back and look at the game and maybe see a lot of stuff that he missed. But Lucinda Gatton that you mentioned there as well, like, I don't know, Shane, I think we have it handy compared to the women. She had a child in May and got back playing All Ireland this year and broke her hand as well. I was chatting to Mairead Wall from Ballymacarbery, who was back training with Ballymacarbery 6 weeks after having a child as well. So Yeah, there's something else now, in fairness. I don't know if me and you would be caught for that type of thing.
And then just one final thing before you go then. Clonmorris getting it done in their All-Ireland final against Nafina of Meath, 1-7 to 7 points. Panel of 17 players. Even just on the programme, it looked odd.
It looked crazy because there was 8 in their management team. So you're looking at like, you know, half the management team makes up half of the personnel of the team. Did a fair whack of injuries coming into it as well. Like there was women carrying hamstrings and stuff like that. Like you're literally thinking this, right? If you're going into the final, you want to have a good session before the All-Ireland final. 3 or 4 injuries and you're done. Like you're not feeling the team in an All-Ireland final. It's crazy. They won junior a couple of years ago and went intermediate. Like it's actually mad because I think his name was it Eddie Murphy or Billy Murphy, the coach. He was just saying after the club faces extinction nearly, and after winning All Ireland, like it's absolutely crazy. Probably one of the greatest. It's one of the great feats in probably the history of the GA, realistically, to win an All Ireland at a really good level with 17 players. Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, well look, we'll let you go and we'll chat to you again in 2024 because that's it for this year. I'll finish out the show, but yeah, happy Christmas
to all our viewers. Take her handy, Shane. I'll talk to you in the new year.
Right, you are. Good luck. Okay, so some other results before we finish up here. Grainmore of Armagh, they won the All-Ireland Camogie Junior Club final against Athleague of Roscommon. That finished 3-9 to 2-5. But we'll jump back to some of the other All-Ireland club hurling stuff. So the semi-final between Thomastown and Setanta. We did talk about it beforehand that we expected Thomastown to win this one quite well. And to be fair, you know, they did do it. And I see Joe Passmore replying on X here saying Kilkenny clubs in 3 finals highlights the total lopsided nature of the gradings. Gutted for Setanta to concede 6-26 in an All-Ireland semi-final. Hurling has created multiple knots and difficulties for itself. All needs to be looked at for the game itself, promotion, growth, democracy. But I suppose part of that too is that in some counties, if they don't refer to their second grade as intermediate, they can't go into intermediate. And they, you know, it's the first grade that they call intermediate that goes into that competition. So that definitely needs to be tidied up somewhere along the lines. But to talk about Thomas's a little bit more, 6-26 to 1-8. The Donnelly brothers were in brilliant form there. John Donnelly hit 3-2 and Stephen scored 1-5 and Robbie also scored 5 points there. So really, really good performance from them. And they're into an All-Ireland semi-final against Castle Lions of Cork. So whatever about the huge scoreline that Thomastown put up, Castle Lions, they were very impressive. And Colm Spillane, who we had doing a coaching clinic last year, he scored a couple of points early on to set Castle Lions on their way. They'd scored 3-16 and 2-22 in their Munster games, but they found it tougher here, scoring 1-12 to Turin's 13 points. And it was Anthony Spillane who kicked a goal in at one stage. He'd scored a hat-trick against Corofin of Clare in the Munster club clash that they had. Turin battled bravely, but they've now lost 4 All-Ireland semi-finals in 6 years. So while we might be pressing for the idea of the Mayo champions having a Connacht final against the Galway champions, I suppose they would need to be winning an All-Ireland or two to sort of force that across the line. But we'll see what happens there. The All-Ireland Junior Club semi-final saw St. Catherine's of Cork beat Eastkey. Kyle Wallace was excellent there. He scored 3 points from play. Tullow-Ross Birkin will meet them in the final after seeing off Castleblaney of Monaghan. That was 3-20 to 1-12. Conor Hennessy's goal for Tullow after 7 minutes kind of settled them. And Keano Donoghue, he also scored a goal. He actually scored 2-9 for a finish. So very important there. Then just to talk about some of the other games that were in the Camogie Championship. Oh, I already mentioned those. Sorry, I'll just mention the scores from the All-Ireland Ladies Championship. So Kilkerran Clonberne, they completed a 3 in a row. They beat Ballymacarbery by 18 points to 1-9 there. Eva Noon, Lindsay Noon and Chloe Miskell, they were all in excellent form. Glanmire of Cork, they beat Balnamore, Sean O'Heslin's. That was 5-8 to 1-6. And O'Donovan Rossa, 2-7. Claire Morris, 11 points. That was the Junior Football Championship final. So just a couple of comments then before we finish up. Traum Spieler says, Nolik Shona lads. So same, many happy returns to yourself. Liam Mack 01. Stephen John and Robbie aren't brothers, they're all cousins. So apologies, that's referring back to Thomastown. And the second tier All-Ireland point, says Nisha, Dublin are throwing away club titles at these levels. Yeah, so just in the, I think it was the Intermediate Championship this year, you were looking at the 13th ranked Kilkenny team because their senior championship is 12. You were looking at the intermediate team from Dublin was the 31st graded team in the Dublin Championship. So that just does show you how lopsided the whole thing is. And P-Well74 says, happy Christmas, lads. So yeah, many happy returns to all you out there, and delighted that everyone watches the show as religiously as they do every Monday and every Thursday. We'll be back in 2024. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to get audio podcasts and some of those coaching videos, go to patreon.com/OurGame. Really, really appreciate all the support that everyone gives the show. Like, share, the whole lot, and we'll see you again in 2024.